Can art keep Alzheimer's away? The science of creativity and cognition. You may not think your afternoon doodles or spontaneous bursts of piano playing are doing anything monumental, but your brain might disagree. In fact, if you've ever lost yourself in a painting, written a poem that made no sense but felt strangely profound, or found comfort strumming the same 3 guitar chords for the 100th time, congratulations. You've been doing cognitive therapy without even knowing it. And now, science is catching up with what artists and musicians have sensed for centuries, that creativity isn't just emotional expression. It's mental preservation. It's neurological training in disguise. And yes, it may even play a role in keeping Alzheimer's at bay. For years, medical researchers focused almost entirely on logic, memory drills, and brain games to slow cognitive decline. But as it turns out, the softer, more expressive side of life, the side that doesn't involve spreadsheets or flashcards, might be just as important for long-term brain health. Creating art, writing poetry, composing music, or even simply engaging with the arts stimulates a unique cocktail of brain regions, from those handling attention and executive function to those orchestrating language, emotion, and long-term memory. One reason? Blood flow. Art isn't just fluffy self-care, it's neurovascular gymnastics. When you create or engage with art, your brain lights up like a Broadway marquee. Functional MRI scans show increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, your memory center, and the default mode network, which is involved in introspection and imagination. This increased activity brings greater blood flow, delivering oxygen, nutrients, and vital chemicals that keep neurons healthy and growing. Let's take painting, for example. When you're selecting colors, planning composition, and experimenting with brushstrokes, you're engaging visual spatial processing, decision-making, and fine motor control, all in one go. That's not just creativity, that's cross-training for your brain. And it's deeply immersive, which helps regulate stress, something that's increasingly linked to brain inflammation and cognitive decline if left unchecked. One study found that just 45 minutes of art making lowered cortisol levels significantly. Imagine what happens when you make it a daily habit. Music therapy, meanwhile, is the closest thing we have to a universal brain language. Whether you're playing, singing, or simply listening with intention, music lights up multiple areas of the brain at once, especially those involved in language processing, auditory memory, and emotion regulation. In fact, patients with Alzheimer's who can no longer recognize loved ones often still respond to music, tapping their feet, humming along, or even remembering entire lyrics. That's not coincidence. Music accesses deeper parts of the brain that tend to stay intact longer, and when used consistently, it may help preserve those neural pathways. And then there's writing, especially expressive writing, poetry, journaling. Even if your metaphors are mixed and your haikus accidentally become limericks, the act of translating thoughts into words strengthens linguistic pathways, emotional resilience, and autobiographical memory. It also gives you a way to process complex emotions, which has been shown to reduce depressive symptoms and improve cognitive flexibility. That's a fancy way of saying writing makes your brain better at thinking from different angles, something that becomes increasingly valuable as we age. One of the most promising areas of research now lies in art-based interventions for those already experiencing mild cognitive impairment or early-stage Alzheimer's. In structured programs, seniors who participate in group painting, sculpture, or storytelling show measurable improvements in mood, social connection, and even short-term memory. Some studies suggest that these benefits aren't just temporary boosts. They may reflect genuine neuroplastic changes, where the brain is reorganizing itself in response to novel, meaningful activity. And here's the best part. Creativity doesn't care when you start. You don't have to be a lifelong artist or classically trained musician. In fact, some of the most powerful brain benefits come not from mastery but from novelty, from trying something new, making a mess, and engaging without pressure. Neuroplasticity thrives on challenge and delight. Even if the only thing you've drawn since high school is a grocery list, picking up a paintbrush at 70 can still change the landscape of your brain. There's also a social element to many creative pursuits. Joining a choir, taking an art class, reading or writing in a group, these are all activities that blend cognition, emotion, and connection. And social engagement is one of the strongest lifestyle predictors of cognitive resilience in later life. In other words, if you're painting and chatting while sipping tea and arguing about brush technique, your brain is winning on all fronts. So no, art alone won't prevent Alzheimer's. But it offers something that pills and supplements never will: joy, expression, connection, and a chance to keep your brain alive with possibility. It's not just about doing something beautiful, it's about keeping the mind behind it lit up, engaged, and endlessly curious. So grab the markers, sit down at the piano, or rhyme your way through a moody Tuesday. Your brain doesn't care if it's a masterpiece. It just cares that you showed up and got a little weird with it.